Queer pedagogy approaches to inclusive teaching. So before introducing you to the concepts of queer pedagogy, queer theory, maths inquiry, which all leads to the queering of the maths curriculum, I have a story here provided by Dr. Brandy Wade, a queer mathematician. And the story demonstrates us the many opportunities to learn from. And the question or the story begins like this: Miss Wade, how would you define a couple? And this was a question raised by one of her students, and Brandy teaches secondary school students. And it was in relation to a maths problem, typical maths problem. Here it is. At a school dance, there are X boys and Z girls, and there are more boys than girls, and how many different possible couples for dancing are there? And she recaps, this moment could have been an opportunity for my students and me to interrogate the assumptions in the mathematical book or textbook, assumptions that evolve from social constructs. I could have engaged the class in conversation about gender, suggesting that not all couples are heterosexual, that not all individuals identify as male or female, and that a culture of acceptance is necessary. She continues, I could have prompted the students to see how they might solve the problem if they did not define couple as female or male. But she added, the moment slipped by because I was not prepared to queer the curriculum. She had set an assignment for students and realised then that they had not questioned traditional gender conceptions. Even though she was queer herself, she had not considered that students might question the definition of a couple. So hopefully, after considering the content of this presentation and some self-education issues related to the queer community, you will be more prepared and confident to queer your curriculum and engage in discussion of queer topics in the classroom. This presentation gives a brief overview of the terms queer, queer pedagogy, queer theory, and mathematics inquiry, which all lead to queering the maths curriculum. Starting with the word queer, historically queer was linked with the terms insult and shame, and was, and in some cases still is, a term of abuse hurled at those who are perceived as not fitting into the norm, particularly those attracted to the same sex. Today, the term can still be used as a term attributed to strangeness and difference. In the 1980s, it was reclaimed as an umbrella term in lieu of LGBTQ+, and is inclusive of people who do not fit within the LGBTQ labels. The term queer has become a rallying point not only for the LGBTQ+ community, but also for people who wish to identify themselves with the anti-homophobic movement. Queer becomes everyone who is not normatively heterosexual. Queer is also used as a verb for questioning or troubling social constructs and what is considered normal. So if we look at the term queer, taking two different approaches, the approach under queer theory and the approach under liberal theory. On the one hand, queer theory proposes that sexual identity and gender identity is unfixed and may change over time, that identities are performative, which is about how we express our identity, the way we behave, and so on, because of this identity. And thirdly, that identities are tied to other identities, the race we come from, our religion, lack of, our social class, and so on. And that identities are shaped by culture. In queer theory, the term queer is defined against what is considered normal or normative. We are questioning what normal is. And on the other hand then, liberal theory sees identity as fixed or unchanging and is part of an essential self. Queer pedagogy seeks to uncover and disrupt hidden curricula of heteronormativity. It develops classroom landscapes and experiences that create safety for its queer participants. Queer pedagogy involves exploring being queer and how queer identities intersect and impact educational spaces. A teacher might use queer pedagogy to trouble traditional heteronormative notions about curriculum and pedagogy. Queer praxis is active. It's concerned with the safety for our queer students and teachers. It encourages engagement of queer students. And finally, it encourages the understanding of queer issues, culture, and history. So teaching queerly is not about teaching sex education. Queer pedagogy looks different in each instance. It will look different from discipline to discipline, and even individually within those disciplines. Queer theory arose in the 1990s, and according to Barker and Gile, it is a theoretical approach to question the categories and assumptions on which current popular and academic understandings are based. It questions what is considered normal, be it principles, laws, theories, theorems, social constructs, frameworks, people, disciplines, spaces, and so on. It is about holding ourselves accountable and always remaining self-reflexive. Taking a queer theory approach means trying to stand on shifting ground. You are never stable, never comfortable with the status quo, with stereotypical social constructs. Queer theory leads to mathematical inquiry, which moves beyond inclusion to inquiry in maths teaching. Kathleen Rands from the University of North Carolina produced a model of mathematical inquiry in 2009. According to Rands, mathematical inquiry recognizes that mathematics is done by people, for people, people who drive how mathematical ideas are represented and who come with their own ideologies and biases. Many researchers and educators theoretically examined and documented the role of race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, and colonialism in maths and maths education. Maths inquiry goes beyond the idea that maths is just maths. Maths inquiry moves beyond inclusion to inquiry in teaching and learning, moving beyond the tokenistic adding queers and stir concept to interrogate normativity in mathematics, the classroom, and outwards into society. Maths inquiry questions the tasks, the strategies, the very ways of thinking and doing mathematics, as well as the way mathematics is used to interpret and act in the world. It challenges the assumptions of normal through questioning what we present to students in our notes, our assignments, textbooks, and reference materials. Teachers and students question the nature of knowledge and learning and examine all facts and the context and assumptions surrounding them. And finally, mathematical inquiry deconstructs and disrupts educational norms and allows us to imagine new possibilities in the world of maths. Rands proposes the following thought-provoking questions when analysing class materials, and these questions have also been adapted and adopted for interrogating other curricula. So the first question is, what do we notice or wonder? And let's say the student noticed or wondered about the term gender in the text. This can now be an opportunity to facilitate a discussion that helps the students define the terms gender and sex and distinguishing between the two. And this question also gives us a window into the student's initial thinking and engagement with the text. And the second question, what is the context? And it might take us into the domain of the author's identity, the period in which the book was written, what was going on historically at that time. It's an attempt to get the students to question the tasks, the strategies and the ways of thinking. The third question, what genders are represented and how are they presented? Fourthly, who is included in the represented genders and who is not? What other genders exist? Again, these questions allow the student to consider representation in the text. They prompt the students to think outside the binary. Agender, transgender, non-binary, gender fluid, etc. And the final question, what would considering other gender identities, not just male and female, add to our understanding? And this question may prompt students to make connections between the text and the world they live in. It can also open doors to discussions on a broad number of real-world issues. According to Rands, queer inquiry or inquiry takes us from tokenistic inclusion of queer students and their issues into the extent frameworks to making a difference by challenging what is normal. True inquiry is not just limited to gender and sexuality. It's also about pushing back against society's idea of what is normal. For example, Rands suggests that students consider the normal way of measuring time and other ways there may be to experience or measure time. Another example looks at the notion of the family and challenges the students to question the types of family still left out of the problem. From a starting point of same-sex marriage, Rand encourages the students to explore and imagine relationship configurations that could potentially arise beyond same-sex marriage and the economic systems of income, healthcare, taxes, housing and childcare which could arise. Rand recommends 4 steps to develop a queer pedagogy. The first step is to reflect on your own identities and biases. The second step is to self-educate, to build up your own confidence. You might be more confident at designing and delivering curricula that are responsive to the needs of students from different cultures, ethnicities, religions, disability, and race, and may lack confidence in addressing LGBTQ issues in the classroom. Take proactive steps to educate yourself on the lived experiences of queer students, the terminology used within the queer community, and ways to support queer students in the classroom. The first 2 steps might help you come up with ideas of how to queer your curriculum. The third step is to conduct a curriculum audit, or in other words, examine your course content. When conducting an audit of your own curriculum, take an item like a recommended textbook or some notes or an activity and answer the following questions. Question 1. Are there stereotypical concepts or terms included in the text just because they're considered normal in social constructs? For example, male, female, race or ethnicity. Question 2. Reflect on what assumptions you have about these constructs. What do you consider as normal? Third question, in what ways has the text oversimplified the constructs? Fourth question, what other definitions or perspectives of the construct might exist? And number 5, what does this mean for presenting this text to the students? And the last step is engage in inquiry. Just do the work. Maybe consider alternative examples, textbooks, discussion points, maybe introducing LGBTQ maths heroes and authors. So far, we've examined the term queer. We've looked at queer theory, queer pedagogy, and maths inquiry, and all this is leading up to the idea of queering the STEM maths curriculum. And traditional thinking has led us to believe that some subjects are more queerable than others. Subjects like law, politics, history, art, social studies, and language provide many opportunities for discussion of gender issues and their intersection with race, ethnicity, social class, ableism, and so on. And maths has commonly been viewed as a neutral, unbiased subject. It's culture and value free. And it's considered by many people to be the least influenced by social factors. But critical maths teachers now recognise that what and how we teach maths are influenced by social factors and have hidden messages that often reinforce oppression. So in conclusion, as lecturers, are we willing to go the extra mile and queer our curricula? Are we willing to seek out opportunities to do so? Are we prepared to engage deeply when the student asks a question which pushes against the norm, particularly gender and sex norms?